you mind telling me the recovery story while I'm filming? The interesting change that you've seen in them after they get rescued and how their behavior changed?
I mean, so we have a lot of these white, the leghorns particularly are all from battery cages. So, they were in these tiny little cages with a whole bunch of others, and they've been de-beaked. When they first get here, they typically all pile up on top of each other in the corner of the coop. And it takes them, a couple of months. Next thing you know, they're wandering around. They're showing their personalities. Their combs, which are bright red now, when they first get here, are completely pale pink. They're lackluster. They're completely flopped over. Sometimes you can't even see their faces because they don't stand up at all. And they have no interest in life. And then all of a sudden they realize that they can walk around. It must be getting late morning, so they all kind of like go in. They come out early in the morning, walk around, and they go in, and then they come back out again. So this is their kind of nap time. And this is Esmerelda. She's a very rare turkey. There's only 5,000 of this breed left in the United States apparently, and she came from wild care. But apparently, when she first got here, oh my gosh, she would just cower and hide also. She'd just be in a corner. Now you can't get her to leave you alone. It's pretty funny.
You've rescued dogs too.
Yeah, like a lot of people, yeah.
What would, since people are more familiar with dogs, what's a behavior change that you see in dog physical behavior that could be likened to what you were describing in the chickens?
Okay, I think it really depends on where the dog is from. I think the evolution of, a dog coming out can be akin to these if the dog is from, let's say, a dog meat farm in Korea. I just brought back a dog from a dog meat farm in Korea as part of, at the request of IDA. But I think, it's much harder for these farmed animals because there are some dogs that were maybe tied up in the backyard that had a really, really bad life. And they've had their own personal transformation to undergo. But I would say, generally speaking, the transformation you see in these farmed animals is much, much more dramatic because they were in horrible situations usually. And then when they come here and they find that they actually have room to roam, that they have friends, that they can now start thinking about themselves as individuals, you see this amazing transformation. You see the personalities come out. You see a hierarchy that starts to take place at the sanctuary. You see compassion that animals have for each other. Some animals have for each other. You see that some animals are really smart and inquisitive, and other animals are sort of, not as curious. You see some animals are goofy and love playing, and others are really serious, just like some humans. It's just amazing how different these, every single individual is. And you see that just after sometimes a few weeks, sometimes it can take years for an animal to become comfortable with himself.
It's a subdued personality, an animal that realizes that there's finally a life worth living.
Yes, that's exactly right. They finally realize that they're in a safe place. The other thing I notice is that when animals get here, they usually know that this is a safe place. They're very, very intuitive. I often tell the story of Erica, a dairy cow who unfortunately passed, but she was arthritic and was going to be put down because she couldn't stand. When she first got here and she saw the green pastures, it was spring, so it was still green. She literally ran off the trailer and just started romping. She knew immediately that this was not the old dairy farm. And I think all animals sort of know that. When they get here, when they're being transported, they're living in fear, like they don't know what's going on. And they get here and they see the other animals. The other animals are all inquisitive of, who's this newcomer? And they all come around. It doesn't matter what the species is. They all come, whether it's a goat or a pig or a sheep or whatever it is. Everyone comes to check out the newcomer and smell them and figure out who they are. And when that happens, the newcomer figures out this is a safe place.
That's cool. That's cool. You may have noticed that I asked Miyoko to compare the recovery of these animals to the recovery of dogs because people are more familiar with dogs and can maybe relate to dogs or appreciate that better. And those of you who follow me know that I'm absolutely in love with my dog, Wolf Bear. And now we have a new addition to the family in April, and I've also helped dogs in my neighborhood. And it's amazing to watch their changes, and from animals that have been subdued, who have been oppressed, who have been taught not to have a personality, who have taught not to engage in life, to start to realize that they can be themselves and show signs of who they really are as individuals, beyond the scope of eating, defecating, and obeying rules. With Wolf Bear, I had him from a puppy and have raised him in a period of time in my life where I've been the most enlightened and therefore have done the best job of being a compassionate, aware human being. And his personality is the most complex of any non-human animal I've ever encountered. And I always ask myself, is that because he is so different? Or is it because my treatment of him has allowed him to reach the full personality potential that he is capable of? All you have to do is swap places, put yourselves in their shoes. Imagine a human being growing up in or living an entire life in the same conditions. How much would that affect how they develop? How much would that affect their personality in the long run? Even if that person was eventually rescued from those horrific conditions, how much would that affect that person in the long run? So many of these animals live horrific lives, and others that we think we're giving good lives to are still, basically living the lives of prisoners. And it just makes you wonder what all animals are capable of if they weren't limited to what we limit them to.